Everyone, and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. I'm going to be dedicating the program tonight to a real life story of a young lady called Jacqueline Boateng, who went through a really terrible childhood full of abuse and neglect. So we're going to be actually looking at whether it's really possible to be happy after you've been through something so traumatic. So you're going to be hearing her very moving story, and because she didn't only suffer abuse in her childhood, but later on as she grew up, met someone, then she also ended up in an abusive relationship. So we're going to be talking to her shortly. And also I'm going to be joined by Namita Prakash from the Survivor Trust, and also Chris Hoodie from Break Charity, who's going to be coming along with Jerome Macklin Page, who actually grew up in care himself. So he's going to be actually describing his experiences, and maybe you'll be quite surprised at what he has to say about being brought up in care. So if you want to take part in this program at any point, you can also email me on chris@chrissybshow.tv. You can also give us a call because it's a live show. If you'd like to comment on anything that you hear here tonight, you can give us a call on 020 7686 6300. So let's first introduce Jacqueline. Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi, Chris.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
So
I know I have interviewed you before on another show, and I remembered your story, quite well, because I was actually quite shocked about what you went through, and especially things that happened to your brother as well. So can you tell us and the viewers at home, when did everything start for you, and what was your earliest memory?
I think everything started off pretty much when our parents split up. They pretty much never had a stable relationship, and that really did affect us a lot. So the worst was when we were separated. Actually, I discovered this later on as I traveled to the UK. We were separated from our mom because she was very ill, and she had to travel abroad to come here for treatment. She had a rather threatening health problem, and they couldn't treat her back there. But what we were told was that they abandoned us. Our father was a working man. He was in the army and held a very high position, so he rarely had time to be with us, to interact with us. So the only person that could look after us was our mom, and when she took ill, then everything just fell apart.
Did you sort of, until that time, were you quite happy as a child, do you remember, or were you always sort of feeling like you were missing something because your dad wasn't around?
I was missing something in the way because Daddy was never around. He was always working, or when he came over, it was a very short period of time. And it was, because we were very young, it was really difficult as well for us to adjust to, because he was in the army. And I remember when he came over to visit us, he would regularly come with bodyguards. He had people guarding the house. He would come with soldiers in the uniforms,
that must
with
have been
guns.
scary for you.
It was, thinking about it now, it was really scary, but it didn't bother us so much because we didn't see it that often. And then Mom was also working as a businesswoman, trying to make ends meet. Not that we lacked anything, we didn't have money, but she was a very career-minded person. She really wanted to earn a living. She wanted to work hard. And our father didn't want to take that away from her because she was really driven. She wanted to achieve. We had everything that we wanted. Our father was a rich guy, and we couldn't lack anything. But it's just, I think, that interaction with your parents. Mom always being busy. When she was there, she was upset about certain things, and Dad not being there, she's thinking he's having an affair. I was very young, and then 3 years old, that's when everything sort of fell apart. Mom left, I was left.
So you were actually told at the time that your mum didn't care? You didn't know at the time that?
From the age of 3 until about 9-10 years old, your parents didn't care about you. They never wanted you. You were an accident, can't you see? And as I grew older, it actually started to make sense, because Daddy was always busy working. He was never at home. Mom was always doing her own thing. So it really made us think, nobody really wanted us. And then for me,
you and your
my younger brother, And for me, it became extremely difficult because at the time I didn't see it as a burden, if I could say. My brother sort of took me on as his comforter. He confided in me. He would even call me, Mom, you're my mom, you're my sister, you're my brother, you're my everything. Because then I became like, I think, more of a mom to him. Mom not being there, Dad not being there, things really became extremely difficult.
What was the age difference between you?
I was just under 2 years older than him.
Okay.
Yeah, just under 2 years. And it was really difficult. But as a child, you're growing up. You don't really see these things. You live through them. You think, you don't really care. But as I grew older, it started to affect me a lot. Hearing negative stuff, you're an accident, your parents didn't want you, you never wanted, you don't belong to this family.
So who was actually looking after you when your mom?
The person that was looking after us at that moment was our auntie. our dad's sister, who we had a very bad experience. And from the age of, I think I was about 4.5, I started to learn how to do house chores, how to clean, how to wash dishes. And it was a big family. I wasn't cleaning for just 2 people, 3 people. It was a big family. And then with them having this thing of, you don't belong into this family, you are never part of us, you're just being brought to be part of, because they thought because their brother was rich, my mom tried to make it look like we belong to him because of his riches, which was absolutely not true. And we could see as well, we weren't stupid, we could see our parents did love us. It's just that circumstances and things happening, you know, that they couldn't control.
So they had you sort of doing, I mean,
yes.
I do think it's good for kids to help around, but
It's very good.
if we're talking about slave labour here,
it was extremely. It was exactly that, because it was so hard and so painful. I remember even having to wash up the dishes, because it was a very big house. It was a big household. Like, we had about 19, 20 people.
Wow.
And that's on a regular basis. If we had like birthdays, gatherings, it would be a lot more. And I was always the one that would not come out to greet family members, to greet the aunties, because I was in the kitchen doing something. I was cooking, I was preparing this. I was never, sometimes guests will come to the house and will leave without seeing me, because I was always the one kept in the background doing things. It was so hard that sometimes when I was washing the dishes for the whole house, I was so small I couldn't like bend over into the pot to wash them. I had to climb. I'll put certain smaller pots next to it and climb inside the pot and have to wash the dishes from inside. And it was very difficult, because then I was thinking I'm trying to help the situation, but they didn't see it that way. I got beaten up so badly that I'm being stupid. How can you climb into a pot? But as a child, I'm thinking, I can't bend over to wash the things. So let me find a way to get inside, wash them, and then put them on the outside. And then afterwards, then I can come and find a way to rinse them. And it was horrible. Got beaten, fractured bones, on many occasions.
Really?
I ended up in a hospital. I was in a coma. Actually, it's shocking that even when my mom found out, she was shocked how long I was in a coma for. They said I was in a coma for 2 weeks. It turns out I was in a coma for more than 2 weeks. For me, I just thought, you know what, it doesn't matter how long I was in a coma for, but I was in a coma because I was so badly beaten.
And who was it that was beating you? Was it
was relatives,
family members?
It was family members. If anything went missing in the house, it was automatically, I did it. I made it go missing. I stole it. I remember on one occasion, one of our cousins came over to visit. He had money in his pocket and he took off his trousers and hung it on the wall. I was very little. There was no chair even. Then he came round saying that he wanted to take his money to go to the shop and buy something, and his money was missing. I remember I was very little, even how I was brought up observing and never take anything that didn't belong to me. Automatically, he went to his mom and said my money went missing. So the mom told my auntie, her sister. Then they called me. I had no clue what they were calling me for. The next thing, they were beating me. They tied me. We had a big dining table. They flipped it over, tied my arm on each leg, one leg on the other, and they beat me. I didn't know who was beating me. And then on one occasion, I think I sort of blanked out. Then I came back and I could feel my whole body numb. I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't move. And then later on, I realized I couldn't move because obviously I'm being tied to a table. And I was so scared. I was really frightened. Then I turned around, the little kids in the house, they're spitting on me, calling me names. It was horrible. It was really horrible.
What was going through your, I mean, I know you were young at the time, but do you remember what used to go through your mind about,
I just
you know,
wanted to die.
What kind of things were you thinking, like, why is this happening?
I really wanted to die. I wanted to die. I wanted to die so badly. But one thing that used to make me sort of try and black that out was my little brother. Because if I wasn't available to feed him, he wouldn't eat. If he was put in, it was so hard because he was sort of young. He had health problems as well. He had a problem with his upper body where they thought he was having, he had hernia, and he had another problem that was sort of affecting him. He couldn't stand up straight. And even if we had visitors coming over to visit, he was always the one that was hidden. They didn't want anyone to see him because he was like a shame to the family. And it went on for years. So they used to keep him away from other kids, from anyone seeing him. And the only way that I could get him to eat was if I managed to sort of sneak some. The only thing that I used to steal when I was a child was food, and that was to feed him. So I'll find, if I'm washing up and there's some leftovers food on the plate, I'll find a way to hide it and then give it to him.
So it wasn't actually the food from the pot, it was leftovers.
It was leftovers, just to feed him, to keep him. He felt really ill. I thought he was going to die. And on one occasion, he was in the room where he was meant to be staying because they had a function in the house. And for days, because I was so busy with the housework and everything, and, you know, bathing all the kids, then we didn't have nappies. Like here, children have nappies when they you know, they do their number twos, you just throw the nappies away. No, it was literally the towels that you had to wash. I had to wash and wash and wash and wash. It was horrible. So when I was busy with all the guests on that particular, during that particular incident, that I could hardly find time to go and find some food for him. And I was really afraid. I went to call him, I couldn't hear him. And I was calling, I couldn't hear him. I was panicking, I thought maybe he's dead. I called, I kept calling. I went away because I didn't want to make a scene. I went away, came back, kept knocking on the door, and I heard him literally trying to speak, but he couldn't speak. And I said to him, find a way to get yourself to the door. I dug a hole into the door.
Jacqueline, hold it there, because we're going to go to a quick break, because I know what you did after that, many people are going to find really shocking. All right, so you're going to hear what she had to do to keep her brother alive after this break. Join us then.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show. So we've been hearing the very shocking story of Jacqueline's childhood, suffered from terrible, terrible neglect and abuse in Uganda. And, you know, if anything that she's saying here, you know, is affecting you in any way and you want to get in touch and you need some sort of help yourself, maybe you have been through abuse in your past, you're not sure how to deal with it, maybe you haven't spoken about it, please do email me. I can put you in touch with organisations that can help you. You can email chris@chrissybshow.tv. So Jacqueline, you got to the point just before the break where, you know, you were calling for your brother. He was being neglected terribly, not being fed. You had to kind of steal food to get to him. But on this particular occasion, you were looking for him everywhere and you couldn't find him. Then you could hear him just about being able to speak and call out to you. So what happened then?
What happened in that moment when I heard him, there was a sense of relief because I actually thought he's dead.
So where actually was he that particular?
He was still in the room,
right,
which was locked up. So I called, and then eventually he managed to get to the door. And I was thinking in that moment, I didn't have anything to give him to eat because I just managed to sneak away to come and attend to him and see if he's okay and maybe see if he needs anything so I can go and prepare it. And in that moment, I was desperate because the way he was, you know, struggling for breath, I really thought I'm going to lose him.
He was completely dehydrated probably.
Because there were moments where the beating was so bad that sometimes if I got blamed for something that I didn't do and I didn't want to be beaten up, I would run away from home. And when I ran away from home, I would stay with neighbors or stay in the bushes and just really, on even one particular incident, I remember I sat there on the outside of the house and I was thinking, as I could hear the animals, wild animals coming, and I was thinking they're going to eat me. I closed my eyes and I thought, I'm going to die. But the dog came and laid next to me, started licking me, then eventually left. And I was thinking, okay, you know what, maybe I need to go back.
The dog was kind, right?
Yeah, I was really frightened.
Imagine an animal's kinder than your own family.
I closed my eyes thinking, probably I'll never open my eyes again. And I was thinking of my brother, if I die now, there's nothing I can do. And that was it. The dog didn't do anything to me. So eventually I went home the following day, trying to sneak into the house to see him. And that was really on a regular basis was my life. But on this particular incident, when he was in the room and struggling for breath, I asked him, are you okay? He said, he's thirsty. Are you okay? And I asked him twice, he said, he's thirsty. And I was thinking, where am I going to get something for him to drink? By the time I go out, come back to get something to drink, they're probably going to find out and I won't be able to give him anything. So I asked him to come close to the door and I had to urinate for him to drink my urine so that he could stay alive. And believe it or not, as harrowing as it sounds, he drank my urine and he was okay. He was fine. He started talking normal. And I said, I can't promise.
So
I'm
this is
come
that
back
sort of
soon.
basic survival
That's the only
instinct,
thing I
isn't
could
it?
give him.
But that's
And
what kept him alive.
It was shocking because I don't even know how the idea came to me, because there were moments where I would actually go in the bin and get him food to eat. There were moments one day I had to go, there was a little garden near the house, it was a neighbor's garden. I went there, I was thinking, what can I give him to eat, what can I give him to eat? And I went and I pulled out a plant, potatoes. I pulled out, and they had some little potatoes on it, and I pulled out a few of them and I went running with them and I pushed it through that little hole that I'd dug for him to eat. So he would eat raw potatoes, sometimes he would eat skin, banana. If they peeled food and threw skin away, that's what he had to eat. He would eat anything that I gave him because he thought, that's going to keep him alive. And it was really horrifying, it was horrible. And during those moments, Dad came to visit, and he wasn't happy the state that he found us in. He tried to really help us. He got us and put us in a house, got a maid to look after us. The maid had her own agendas. I think she was trying to have a relationship with him and he wasn't interested. She started treating us horribly bad. Then we had to end up going back to our auntie's house.
To the other, wasn't it?
It was always moving from one place to another. We never had a stable home. So we were suffering a lot, really, really a lot.
What were your dreams, though? I mean, is it like you couldn't even think of anything happy because of everything you're going through? Or was there something kind of hope inside of you thinking maybe life could be different?
I didn't even have any time to dream. Everything was happening so quick and so fast. And for me, what killed everything, there was a little bit of hope, because I've always loved my brother. I loved him very much, and I would do anything that I could do, even if it meant me dying for him to be alive, I was willing to do it. But the final straw came when I was sexually abused, and I told a relative before I confided in my auntie, and I said, this and this happened. Before it happened, actually,
How
the
old were you
person,
at this point?
I was about 8 going on 9. Before it happened, the person came into a room and sort of, I fought the person off, not knowing what the intentions were. I just fought the person off. Why the person come into a room in the middle of the night, in the dark, why are they coming here? And I just fought. Then after a while, I could see one of my cousins was looking at me strangely the following couple of days, not knowing that maybe he's going to come back. So when he returned and he raped me, I didn't even.
Can I just say something? I don't know if you've noticed something about Jacqueline here, because she's talking about some horrific things. I'm having trouble holding it together, right? And you've actually got a smile on your face. What can I just ask? Why is that? Because most people wouldn't be able to talk about a past like this without breaking down. And how are you managing it?
I did receive a lot of help, and it was really hard for me to get through. Probably something I'm going to probably go more into details towards the end of how, the journey sort of started to have, to rather give meaning to my life.
We've only got 5 minutes left. She's got so much to her story.
It is quite long. Yeah. And when after that incident, when I got raped and I told the family members, none of them believed me. They called me a witch. It was some next part of the ordeal of the whole abuse. It was horrible. I wish I actually never said anything. And I think that's the easiest thing. You face these things and you say nothing. I actually regretted having said anything, because no one wanted to believe what I was saying. And I was thinking, as a child at my age, I never came into contact with any of this kind of activities. I mean, how would I know? So it was really difficult to come to terms, not only with what had happened to me, but how everybody around me was reacting, calling me names. I'm a witch. How could I come? It was horrible. But that passed, and then we finally moved out from that house as well. It was another.
Now you actually ended up in the UK.
I did.
Now there is a whole other element to Jacqueline's story, but we're not going to have time to cover it today. But I would like to invite you back soon to the show, and I'd really like you to talk about the rest of what happened, because you came here, you ended up in an abusive relationship, you ended up in prostitution.
Yes.
Horrible things happened to you over here as well. So it's like you kind of escaped the torment there, you came here, and it's just like a whole new thing started. But I'd really like to, I don't want to rush you, because I really want the viewers to hear what you have to say. So I'd like to invite you back. Would you be able to come back?
That's fine.
I'll let you know the day and everything.
No problem, that's okay.
But just to let you know that today Jacqueline is happily married, right? We've got a couple of pictures actually. She managed to find help, counselling. She was able to rebuild her life. And how's life for you today, briefly, just so the viewers get some idea of how things have changed for you?
It's wonderful. I'm looking forward to the future now. I don't have the desire to die. If you ask me, do you want to die now? I'll say no. But before, I would probably say yes.
What about people that are watching now that maybe had a very traumatic past and they can't seem to see a way of ever being happy? They can't seem to kind of, not that you ever forget your past. I don't think anyone can forget their past, but you've obviously learned this, like, despite what happened to you, you've been able to move on and not let that past affect you. But what would you say to someone that says, I can't see myself moving on from what's happened to me?
Do you know what? You just have to look around yourself. You know, you have to look deep inside yourself and see there must be something really worth, living for. There must be, because that's what I did. For me, I think one of the things that helped me was my son. Because the thought of him going through everything that I have gone through, I didn't have this thing in my head, oh, he's a boy, it's not going to matter so much. No, I thought, I was just, the whole idea, terrified me. And I thought, you know what, even if I can't do it for myself, I'll do it for him. Because if I don't fight for him, no one is going to fight for him, because my parents never fought for me. So maybe, for anybody else, maybe is a relative or even your own life, you have to see. And once you have that little, however small it is, and you have it and you hold it onto it, you fight, you definitely find a way forward. Because, and the funny thing is, you have to believe it's possible first, you have to, because when I was going through all these problems, even through my relationship, the domestic violence and everything, I never spoke. I destroyed a lot. For instance, when I was going through my divorce with my ex-husband, I destroyed a lot of evidence. There've been loads of elements to her story. Yeah, I destroyed a lot of evidence, because I was a person that anything that reminded me of horrible things, I would just destroy it. I'll throw it away. And then when I was faced with the court cases, having to fight for my son, for custody and everything, every evidence that I was asked for, I couldn't produce it because I had destroyed it. I didn't tell friends about what had happened. He himself, he raped me. I told only one friend who wasn't even willing to come forward in the end. And it made things really, really difficult. So what I had to learn from that was, you know what, even if you're speaking about it, speak about it. Yeah. But if, maybe you say you're speaking to the wrong person, you never know. You never know who's going to help you, because... So that was a key for you, wasn't it? For me, that was opening up and everything, which is something that a lot of people do when they've had such a terrible past. They just hold it all in, and they haven't got that strength, or they think that, no one's going to be able to help them. But just by opening up, I mean, you've been helped so much. I have, but we have to leave it there, Jacqueline. Not a problem. Because we've got some other lovely guests that are coming on to join us as well. That's okay. Thank you so much. And like I said, I really want to delve more into your story, because there's so many elements to it, and I'm sure our viewers want to hear more as well. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Okay, so after the break, we're going to have two wonderful charities here, representatives from both charities, to tell you about the wonderful work that they are doing. So join us after this.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Chrissy B Show, always aiming to show you the happier side of life. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show. We've just heard the harrowing story of Jacqueline Boateng, but also there is light at the end of the tunnel, because she's very, very happy today despite what happened to her in the past. And whilst some people, I don't even want to call them people, but whilst there's people that are abusing children and teenagers and making their life hell, there are other people that are really trying to make a difference and help youngsters. And let's take a look at the next video of my visit to a Peckham Youth Centre. So I've come down to Peckham today because I wanted to check out this new initiative, and it's actually an ongoing project to build a youth centre. So something in the middle of Peckham, right on the high street, something that's going to be really, really good, and I think it's going to help a lot of young people in this area. So let's check it out.
Hi. Hi, my name is David.
Hi, David.
This is the Peckham Help Centre. Nice to meet you, Chrissy. You too. We're going to go upstairs to see our new youth centre that's going to be built very soon. Okay, let's have a look.
So where we're standing right now is going to be our new youth centre.
I can see you're really excited about it as well.
I really am. Because it's going to be a big opportunity. You're going to have a capacity of 50 to 60 youths in here all at one time.
Yeah.
And it's going to be very beneficial to this area. Where we're standing right now, it's going to be an open space. So it's going to be a little study room. People come, sit down, revise. If there's a lot of noise at home, at least they can come here and find some space to do some work. Just to our right, it's going to be our recording studio.
Wow.
So we're going to have a little glass door over here.
Yeah.
You can enter in through this side. Inside here will be the booth itself.
How did you feel when you heard about this youth centre being built here for you guys?
Well, it's not just me. How did everyone feel here? Everyone was really excited because we felt that this was our opportunity to really take things to another level.
Yeah.
They were so excited, you know, because that place just used to be an empty space. Just looking at what's going to be there already, you've got the recording studio, you've got the IT suite, which is going to be having Mac computers to teach them Photoshop, and you've got the little study room. It's something that's quite unique compared to other youth centres that me personally, even I have been myself.
How do you think broken families and broken homes affect young people?
Well, speaking from my experience, when you're suffering from a broken home, it causes you to search for love outside because you don't find it in the house. That's what leads people to gangs. I didn't get involved in gangs because I just had this understanding that I knew that that's not the way I wanted to go. Some of my friends got involved in that. That's what leads you to lose a respect for women, because at home you see your father doesn't respect your mother, so you don't end up respecting the girls around you. That's what leads people to end up, you know, taking drugs and you know, finding ways to take out this emptiness that they find inside of themselves by drinking, because at home all they see is just a broken family. And the worst thing is that all the young generation, what they want is to see the family happy. That's what they really want. I don't think anyone's gonna really want to go to their mum and say, "Mum, all I want you to do is give me a hug." But that's what they really want. If you don't find the hug there and someone is willing to give you the hug outside, you're not gonna worry about who the person is. You're not gonna look at and judge the person and say, "Yeah, but the person's like this." As far as you're concerned, if they want to give you the hug, you're gonna receive it.
I think young people get a lot of bad press and they're sort of made out to be troublemakers and stuff, but I think it's because we don't invest enough in them as well. They go through hard times at home sometimes, as you did. You know, we don't know what's going on in their minds, but when there's places like this, when there's people that care about them, they can go so far. So, you know, I'm well behind this project here. I'm really looking forward to coming back. Okay, and that's a project that will finish sometime this year, and I'll be going back and doing some filming when everything's finished so you guys can see the progress as well. So I have some lovely guests with me here. I'd like to introduce Jerome, Namita, and Chris as well. Hi there. So how are you all?
Yeah, thanks. Very good.
Thank you for joining me. So obviously you all heard Jacqueline's story. What did you think about what she went through? Chris, I'll start with you.
Well, I was saying to you earlier, it was really sort of traumatic to hear what had happened to her in Uganda. And then to think that she can come through all that experience, then come back to the UK and have a you know, a series of equally bad experiences and still come through it and be such a lovely person.
She's lovely, isn't
really
she?
came across so well, and I think, like you said, sort of so relaxed and almost sort of blasé about things that the likes of you and I would find just dreadful.
Now you actually run a charity called Break. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, Break's a charity from Norfolk, and we look after sort of children in care, and children who've left care. So we've got a number of children's homes, 7 or 8 in Norfolk and Cambridgeshire. But we also work with children with disability for short breaks, and we also work with families who are in crisis, and we also give sort of general family support to vulnerable families in and around Norfolk. So those are the four things that we do.
Okay. Now I know Jerome's got a connection with you, but just before we speak to Jerome, Namita, what is it that you do?
I work for a charity called Survivor Stress. It's an umbrella organisation with membership of about 150 organisations in UK and Ireland. We support organisations working to support rape and sexual abuse victims and survivors. And it's great that we are following from Jacqueline's story, because though it's a horrible story, but it gives us the hope that you can go beyond the experience of abuse and live a normal life, which we stand for. This is our motto, to actually, you know, challenge the society to acknowledge that there is abuse in the society and to help people overcome that abuse and go beyond that experience. So we provide that collective voice to victims, survivors of rape and sexual abuse, as well as to other organizations that support them.
And if Jacqueline had come to you, if she'd come to you for help, what kind of help would you have been able to give her, apart from referring her and things?
Every survivor or victim is an individual in itself, in herself or himself, and they have different needs. So, depending on what their need is, we would recommend it, refer them to appropriate services. But there are counseling, support group, advocacy services to report to the police or to go through the court system. And again, depending on the survivor or the victim, it depends on what they need. So some of them need short-term support, some need long-term support, and some of them might not need any support, but they would be able to overcome. So depending on the individual, we will decide on what they...
I mean, it's quite important to actually know what each individual needs, because sometimes they can go to one place and it's not really, not that that place is bad, it's a very good organisation, but it's like that's not what they need at that particular time. They need something maybe more in depth or maybe not as in depth. So it's quite great what you're doing to actually sort of assess each person and be able to give them the actual help that they need, because sometimes they might just give up because maybe they didn't get the help they needed at the first place, for example.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's really great. Okay, and now we have Jerome.
Hey.
Hello. So you're involved with Break Charity.
Yes.
Can you tell us how you got involved?
Yeah, well, basically, at the age of 14, I actually went into one of the Break Children's Homes. And I've been connected with these guys now ever since then. So I can honestly say, when I first went into the children's home, I could not think of anything more horrific. Because as far as I was concerned, a children's home was a very scary place.
How old were you at the time?
14.
14.
14, yeah, I remember that because I had all my 15-year-old DVDs taken away from me.
Oh.
So, yeah, that was a bitter pill to swallow.
Bit discipline there,
yeah, a little bit. My 15th birthday was an extra celebration because not only did I get a party, but I got my DVDs back, which was quite nice.
At least they kept them for you. That's
yeah, this is it. But no, I mean, in my time in the children's home, I found it wasn't a place which was as scary and as bad as what I first thought. And I've now ended up doing a lot of work
what kind of things, maybe kind of insecurities did you have sort of going in, maybe about yourself, or maybe about what you'd been through as a teenager, as a child? Was it quite hard for you to get over that?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I always talk about when I think of when I first went into the children's home was the night that I actually spoke to my nan and my cousin when I just found out I was going into a children's home. And I just remember being at my cousin's place, and I was sitting on the bed with my cousin and my nan, and we were all in tears because we thought we was never going to see each other again. Because as far as we was aware, a children's home was a place where kids were taken away from their families, as a place for bad kids where they were getting punished.
Well, this is a kind of, I don't know why it is, but you kind of have that impression. And I have to admit, I have to put my hand up and admit that I didn't really know much about care homes and what but I feel really bad for that. But this is why I love this show, because I always get educated with things, certain sort of ideas that I had in my mind. I always sort of see what the real picture is, and that's why I love this show and love having different guests on, because people do have that impression that it's not a good place to be, that you come out more traumatized than when you went in, and but it's not like that at all, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, this is the thing. It's about 3 years ago I actually set up a company, and the reason I set that company up was because when I went into a children's home, I found after 6 months of being there that all of these things that I was scared about a children's home were completely falsified. They weren't there. I mean, don't get me wrong, yes, you occasionally get someone who is a little bit of the stereotypical trouble, but it's the same as any other home across the country. You don't have kind of blanket good children, bad children. It's a bunch of kids who have had a hard upbringing. That's why they're there. They're not there because they're bad kids. They're there because they've had a hard go of it. So that's something that I really, really wanted to get across to people, because unfortunately, when people think of children's homes these days, they're still stuck in the 70s mentality of children's homes are places where everyone is rammed into one room, you're all in bunk beds, and everyone's just punished and whipped all night and day. And it is not that at all.
Blame the media in the films that we see.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, the funny thing is, the ironic thing is, these days it's something called pedagogy has come into children's homes. And the whole thing about pedagogy is that it is about actually getting the family emphasis back into children's homes again. And you go into a children's home now, it's not about let's ram as many kids into one room as possible. You all have your own bedroom. I was living in a house where there was no more than 4 of us in there. And so it's not these big, massive buildings of institution. I mean, I spoke to one guy, right, and it was hilarious because the guy was saying about, he was like, you know, you guys wear uniforms in children's homes, right? Like, I was just like, do you not wear uniforms? What are you on about? I've got like my own clothes. Yeah, exactly. But this is the thing. And, you know, getting back to what was being said earlier on about intervention and all that and the right option at the right time. Me and Chris, we've been speaking a lot lately about foster care because one of the things, unfortunately, at the moment within the care sector is that foster care is seen as point A for every child who it is not appropriate for them to be at home.
Can you hold it there? We're going to go to a quick break. God, it's really going fast today, isn't it? Okay, so you're going to tell us more about... Welcome back. Now, just before we get back to Jerome, because you were just about to tell us about some fostering, weren't you? Yeah. Okay, well, we're just going to check with Namita, because you actually had something to say about, you were telling me something during the break about new things that you're going to be doing in your charity as well.
Oh yes, we've recently got a project contract from Ministry of Justice to start 2 new rape support centres. One is going to be in Reading and the other one is going to be in Preston, and we are very excited about it because Reading and Berkshire area especially didn't have any kind of support for victims of rape or sexual abuse, so this is going to be the first of its kind, which we are very excited about, and it has been very well received, and so is the case in Preston. And just wanted to reiterate that there are services available all across the country, but there are some areas which are better placed than compared to other areas. And we are working on providing services, hoping to provide services in most of the areas, and working to identify these areas and then go to government and other different funders to ask them to support us.
Now you're currently doing a fundraising project at the moment, aren't you?
Yes, that's a continuous thing that a charity needs to do. Yeah. It's especially in the current climate, it's been very hard to raise funds. There's been lots of cutbacks, and being a national organization, being an umbrella organization, we haven't found it very easy to fundraise. So it's a continuous thing, and we do, from time to time, we do different campaigns. Yeah. We encourage people to go to our website and donate as much as they can, so to help us, you know, provide the services that's so
it's a very,
badly
very
needed.
Worthy cause, and like, you know, as I was saying to you guys before, it's like sometimes people think that they can't get help, or there's people aren't going to be able to help them, or they're not going to understand them, but there are always people that can understand, even if, you know, your own parents, I'm just referring back to the Peckham Youth video, like, even if you're, for example, your mum, all you want is a hug from your mum, you want that affection, everything, okay, even if you don't get it from your parents, there's other people that care. I care, everyone here cares, we're all doing this because, you know, we want other people to be happy as well. We've all been through something, and we want others to be happy. That's why we're doing this show today, so that, you know, just for you to know that there is hope out there, that you can overcome a difficult past. So Jerome, back to you, because you're going to show us a little video soon, aren't you?
Yeah, most definitely.
So tell us about the fostering.
Okay, I'll keep it very brief.
Yeah, because we haven't got long.
But basically, the thing is, in this country, fostering, it does do a very good job, don't get me wrong. However, in my personal opinion, I think that children's homes can be better used. Too often are they seen as the last resort, by which point when the children go there, they've had so many bad and negative experiences by the time they get there, that these guys in the children's homes can't actually do the right work that needs to be done, because they ain't getting them soon enough. And so
some young people have had anything up to sort of 20, 30 fostering placements. I mean, that's the extreme case. But you imagine trying to get your life together when you move from pillar to post, from family to family. You know, you lose contact with your friends, your family, school, and everything like that.
It's quite an ordeal to go through.
It just keeps happening. I mean, I couldn't have coped with that. I mean, you know, one family was enough, really, for most of us.
I was actually amazed at all the things that I was looking at. I was telling you earlier, I was amazed at the amount of things that you do and the great projects you've got.
Yeah.
It's quite extensive.
I actually last year, in the middle of the summer, I actually ran a project with this charity. I mean, it's been my baby trying to get it going. Like, when I first set up my company, that was what I wanted so desperately, to have a project with these guys, because obviously it's, you know, it's a very personal thing for me. And ironically, one of the kids that we had on the project is in my old bedroom I used to stay in the children's home, which was amazing. But yeah, it's a great film. It's all about actually, ironically, confronting the stereotypes around children's homes and actually looking at what people think and the realities. And
should we take a look at the clip?
Most definitely.
I want to see the clip again. Let's take a look at this.
Hello, my name's Sophie, I'm 16 years old and I'm a qualified lifeguard.
Hi, my name's Harry, I'm 11 years old and I'm a qualified gymnast.
Hi, my name's Tyler, I'm 12 years old and I'm going to London to do street dance.
Hi, my name's Marianne and I'm 18 years old. I work in a break charity shop.
Hi, my name's Connor Gibbs Davey. My middle name's Out of This World. I'm exceptionally good at art.
Hi, I'm Jordan, I'm 14 years old. I like drama and cooking and I want to say something. All care kids and care aren't really bad.
And something I want to say to the public is it's not all dark doors.
Take me for who I am and not for what I look like. Thank you.
And also I would like to say, don't judge me because I'm an individual person.
And my message to the world is I wasn't put in care because I was bad. I was put in care because the world was bad to me.
And going into care was the best thing that's ever happened to me.
So being brought up in care was the best thing that ever happened to him. That's something really like,
big statement.
Wow, yeah, it is.
Big statement. The thing is, none of those comments were scripted at all. They were all stuff. I went off and I just said to them, go off, think of something to say to the world. And that was all personal to them. And I said, nothing is wrong. And like, you know, where one of the guys turned around and said that we're not put in care because we're bad kids. We're put in care because the world was bad to us. Yeah, that is so powerful. And, you know, for someone as well, you know, to stand there and say, going into care is the best thing that has ever happened to him.
And I think that's the point that is often missed, that care can actually be a very positive experience. I know for some young people it isn't a good experience, but the majority that go through the system will come out, you know, and achieve, you know, a great deal. I mean, you know, there's a group of kids that sort of Jerome grew up with. He's done well. He's a very, very good example, but he's one of many. We've got one young person that is now sort of doing a social work degree at university, another one that's doing a nursing degree, but also got young people that have got apprenticeships. Now, you know, one young lad has just got an apprenticeship in a golf club as a groundsman, but if you'd known him when he was 10 or 12, he was, you know, he would be described as probably as feral, didn't know how to eat properly or anything like that. He's turned into a really, really great young lad. And,
how do you feel when you see these success stories?
It gets me. Watching that film still makes me feel quite emotional because I know those young people, you know, and I know some of the background stories, and I know, you know, what they can achieve, what they can go on to, and already some of those kids are making great strides. It's going to take a long time. But, you know, most of them will get there in the end.
Do you, because a lot of people think, you know what, this child that's here is a lost case. What do you feel about that when people say things like that? This child's a lost case, no way you can, this child will ever be happy or be successful.
There's nobody who's a lost case. Again, if you go back to the beginning of the show with Jacqueline, you'd think that's someone who's a lost case. And look what she's achieved now.
Definitely. Yeah, I think far too often in life people write people off, and my mentality when it comes to anyone that has come from an adverse background and who has had to struggle through hardship. Society likes to see them in the light that they're disadvantaged in society. This is not the case. These are people who have survived stuff which other people would have fallen at, and they have gone through that, and if they can turn that strength into something which pushes them forward, you know, there is nothing that can stop people who get that sort of strength behind them. So they ain't disadvantaged at all.
Yeah, it's so true though. It's definitely, I definitely agree with you, Jerome. Guys, thank you so much for coming on, for talking about the charities and all the work you're doing. I think it's wonderful, and I'm sure, like our viewers tonight, got a lot of help from you. And good luck with all your endeavours and everything that you're doing. And Break Charity, I know you're doing projects all the time, aren't you, Chris? So what's the one you're working on at the moment?
Well, funny enough, we've just started up a fostering project.
Right.
Despite what Jerome was saying, you know, it can work, and that's just got off the ground recently. Yeah. So, and I found out as I was coming up on the train earlier on, we've got you know, quite a sizable grant to help young carers.
Brilliant! Oh, that's wonderful.
So,
that's great news, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Made my day.
It's exclusive.
Oh, that's lovely. I don't want to finish the show tonight, but I have to. So you've seen anyway. You've heard from all our guests. You've heard from Jacqueline tonight that there is always light at the end of the tunnel. Some people say it's just the light, the headlights of an oncoming train. I don't agree with that. Those are sort of people that may be very negative, that they don't believe things can change for them. Life can always change, but it takes for you to actually believe it can change and work towards it, get the right kind of help, and you can make it. You can be successful, and you can definitely be happy. But if you want more information about any of our guests tonight, you can visit the Chrissy B website, chrissybshow.tv. And if you'd like to talk to me as well, I'm always available. You know, whoever you are, if you want to email me at any point, I promise to answer all emails personally. You can do so on chris@chrissybshow.tv. We're going to be back again on, what day is it today? It's Wednesday, isn't it? Friday. Back again on Friday for another topic that's going to be really interesting. We're going to be talking about being single and being anxious. So join us then. Bye-bye for now. Do you remember how things used to be, babe? So corny.
What do you want me to do? Testing, testing, 1, 2, testing, testing. Can you hear me, Sam? Yeah, he can.